Greetings friends, and welcome to another episode of Canon Quick Tips. As you can see, we're out in one of my favorite places, the desert. And depending on when you're watching this, I'll let you know that it's the summertime and we're here to take some photos. But why would I want to be in the desert during the summer? Well, what we're hoping to photograph, we can't see it yet. And that's the night sky. Welcome everyone, my name is Mason Higa with Canon USA, and let's learn about how to get started photographing the night sky. So, what camera gear will I be using? Well, I'll be using the EOS R6 with the RF 15-35mm f2.8L ISUSM lens. The reason for the EOS R6 is because it's a full frame camera, and with the 20 megapixel sensor, it's going to do great with capturing low light scenes and the stars, but also by minimizing sensor noise for an incredible image. And with the EOS R6, I'll be using the RF 15-35mm lens because I'm going to need as much light coming in through the lens and with a bright and wide open f2.8 aperture. It's going to allow more light to reach the full frame sensor. Now, in order to capture the night sky, the most important exposure setting is your shutter speed, because depending on your shutter speed, you'll have nice sharp stars or slightly blurry stars. You have to remember the Earth is rotating, and since I'm trying to make a single image of the night sky, I want it to be as sharp as possible. There are other methods of photographing the night sky, but this is just a primer on how to get started. Our camera will be taking photos with a longer shutter speed, and so we need to use a very sturdy tripod because we will need to minimize any shaking. And shaking can occur with us by moving around the camera or even a slight little breeze. That's why it's important to have a nice sturdy tripod. Here are a few camera settings I recommend. Manual, it's a must. We need to manually control ISO, aperture, and shutter. Raw, shoot in RAW because we're gonna wanna process our images later. ALO, or Auto Lighting Optimizer. Go ahead, turn it off, because we'll be shooting in dark conditions. White balance, set it to daylight, even though we're shooting at night. Long exposure noise reduction, go ahead, turn it off. 10-second timer, or use a remote to trigger the shutter. You want enough time for your tripod to settle when releasing the shutter button. Here are the camera settings that I start with. I start with these settings because every situation is different, but I use this as a baseline to just get started. ISO 1600, aperture wide open at f2.8, and the shutter at 15 seconds. When I take the first shot, I'm gonna look at my histogram to make sure that I'm getting at least a little bit of information over into the middle. I'm also gonna look at the back of the screen, and if it looks too dark, I'll boost the ISO or add more time to the shutter. And if it's too bright, I'll decrease the ISO or shorten the exposure duration. Okay, we've still got a few more things to do before it gets too dark. I'm gonna plan my shot and do my best in trying to compose the image. As I mentioned earlier, we're here during the summer, which is one of the best times to photograph the Milky Way. And right now, the Milky Way is just below the horizon and will soon rise up. I'm gonna set up my camera on the tripod and I'm gonna focus on the farthest thing possible. Go ahead, confirm focus with one shot, and then turn the lens from autofocus to manual focus. Reason being is because I don't want the autofocus motors to jump when I'm pressing down the shutter button. Still with me? Well, now is one of my favorite parts of the day to sit and watch the transition from day to night and get ready for the night sky to reveal itself. It's about time for the first shot of the night. Okay, I've got the camera set 1600 ISO, f2.8, and 15 seconds. Here we go. Okay, wow, my baseline settings were pretty close to what I wanted. I'm just going to increase the ISO by one stop and increase it to 3200. Whoa, awesome. I hope these tips were helpful to get you started on photographing the night sky. To find out more about the EOS R6 or RF 15-35mm, check out our website for all of the latest EOS R series camera bodies and RF lenses. Please be sure to like and subscribe to see more of this type of content. And